This is a TREX training video on how to configure the I/O mirror mode. We'll cover some of the quick set menu items and some advanced options. The I/O mirror mode is our simplest telemetry mode that allows the inputs of one TREX unit to be reflected to the outputs of a remote unit. In this setup, we have two TREXs, this local unit here. You can see that all of the inputs are currently pulled high, they're all in the same state. And on the remote unit, you can see all of the LEDs are in the same state as well. When we change the inputs of these pre-wired inputs here, we can see that as we change one input on the remote unit, that gets reflected here. When we change another input, then the other one changes. We can also see here that this is the remote analog input, and as we change that, we reduce that, smaller, here the changes are reflected to the analog output of the TREX unit on the right. To configure the I/O mirror mode, first we go into the quick set menu item in the menu. And here we first set this to the system defaults. It's a good practice, and it sets the TREX back to its factory original condition. So we set that. That's now been, default configuration's now been applied. And if we go to the I/O mirror mode, you can see that there is an absolute bare number of configuration items here to get the system running as quickly as possible. In this case, we have a operating frequency that we are legally allowed to use here in New Zealand for this application, but you will need to select a frequency that you are legally allowed to use. Here we have a local ID of 1 and a remote ID of 2. The remote unit should be the opposite of this. The remote unit should have the local ID of 2 and the remote ID of 1. Once this has been configured, you can apply that, and that is all that's required to configure it to the I/O mirror mode. And you can see the T there means that it's configured for the telemetry mode. And here again, we change some of the inputs. And here we'll change them here, and we expect on the remote unit, we have a look on the remote unit now, we expect to have all of the LEDs in the same state. Now going to have a look at some of the more advanced options. Go into the menu, and here we may choose to change some of the change the modulation. So currently this by default it's 4800 on a 12.5 kilohertz channel spacing. You may wish to change it to a lower rate for a greater distance, but that will have that will translate to a slower update time. It will be less responsive, and again very responsive if we take it 9600 or above, but again you may be limited depending on your setup to maybe 1 kilometer. Some other options that are available: the I/O mirror mode. Here we've got, here we may change the number of retries. For example, if the unit fails to receive acknowledgement, this determines how many more times it will try, and once, this is the number of times it transmits whenever there is a change. For example, when an input changes, and in this case We have also the refresh time every 30 seconds. All of a T-Rex's inputs, outputs, and both for digital and analog I/O are broadcast. And here we've got the delta ADC count. So this determines how much an analog input must change before it immediately transmits. If there's been just a minor change, less than this delta ADC setting, then the current ADC count will not be broadcast until the next refresh period. There are other examples and configuration items in the manual under I/O mirror mode. That pretty much covers the I/O mirror mode configuration. Thank you.